Okay, as RAMESHWAR'S sir is not available, I may take for a few minutes or maybe 1 hour or maybe more than 1 hour also. Who knows? Depending upon your interest. Okay, so there was an article in the business line, coping with fiscal effects of energy transition. So how many people are well versed with this concept? Coping with fiscal effects of energy transition. What this article deal with? Definitely many people will don't know. They will purchase Hindu paper or any paper, and after 6 months they will sell to the old paper buyer. That's all, very hardly. And daily morning you will see whether that paper came or not. Okay, so nice article published in the business line. Now what is happening from fossil fuel? See, take the example of cars, buses. Earlier we used to purely use the diesel, or for cars petrol. Now what happened? The number of electric vehicles have increased like anything. Okay, so now see, actually what is happening? This fossil fuel, that is crude oil, that is after processing of crude oil you will get the diesel and petrol, of course, which is used as a fuel for the many vehicles. So on diesel and petrol, the central government will collect the excise duty and state government will levy the state VAT. And that state VAT is the major share of income to the state governments after the GST. Even before GST also it is a major share. But now what happened? Now state government's major share in its own tax revenues are the state VAT. So now take the example of Telangana, maybe 29 or 30% of tax is levied on the petrol and diesel. Now in course of time what happened? The consumption of diesel and petrol will decline when everybody will switch over to the electric vehicles. So here what happens? The net revenues, the net tax revenues of center and also state will decline. Maybe in future, not immediately, but in future. But slowly, there will be a decrease in collection. After a certain period, abruptly, that collection will fall. Why? All the people will switch over to the electric vehicles. So, automatically, how the government will cope up with this fiscal impact? Understand? They have to search for the other revenue modes. They may levy taxes on the coal. So on electric vehicles now they cannot levy. Why? They are encouraging the electric vehicles by giving the subsidies. Now it is a double dhamaka. Why? One side they are losing the revenues, other side they have to spend the revenues in the form of subsidies. Electric vehicles are given subsidies by the government. In course of time, even they may evolve a scrapping policy, car scrap policy. After a certain period, you have to hand over that vehicle to the government. They will scrap and you will get that money, some money. And that money will also be given from the Indian Exchequer. It is also a burden. So here one side, you are losing the revenues. Other side, you are involving more expenditure. So now the government has to make new policies to accommodate loss in revenue. Why? If our tax revenues decline, we may not go for the good policies, social public policies like programs, and even if you are not having the money, even you cannot spend for the social infrastructure, which is must for the growth of economy. Definitely, we have to discourage the fossil fuel because they are harming the ecosystem. So this is the underlying meaning of this article, which was published in the business line, Indian Express, and PIB, India. There are n number of articles. Zero number of studying students. And that is the problem with the system. Okay. ठीक है. Now, center and state revenues from fossil fuels amount to 3.2% of GDP. GST collections will have to cover up in future. India's net zero commitments have made the energy transition from fossil fuel, because we have agreed that we will minimize our usage of fossil fuels by 2030 or 40. Okay, yeah. It is going to be a complex task with many interlinked moving parts. As India currently gets a large part of its revenue from fossil fuels, fiscal transition will play an important part. So we are on one side, we are losing the money. Other side, you have to spend the money to encourage the electric vehicles. So we have to cope up that gap. In a recently published IMF working paper, we have studied how government, both central and state, revenue from coal, oil and natural gas will be affected over the next 2 decades as India shifts towards renewable energy sources. No question of fossil fuels. Even in future, no need of electricity also. Solar powered cars may come. Why not? Why not? Even if you have the solar power in your house, with that solar power only you can charge your vehicle, which I am planning in Hyderabad. Arthamainda? So, zero emissions. Okay. We use the International Energy Association scenario for India to represent the future situation under fairly standard assumptions on growth, prices and taxes. There would be continued growth in revenues from fossil fuels till 2040. Revenues may grow, but not abnormally, maybe 1 rupee. Abnormal growth in because suddenly there will not be shift to electric vehicles. Now take the example of lakhs of lorries are flying on the roads. They will not switch over to electric vehicles until 2040. Abruptly, the revenues may not decline; they may increase, but not in the increase as in the earlier decade. See, when Manmohan Singh was Prime Minister of India, maybe 9 years ago, or of course maybe 10 years ago, even the crude was nearly 100 or 80. But in that period, the usage of diesel and petrol was very less. Now, abnormally increased. Though we are shifting to electric vehicles, the number of sales of petrol and diesel vehicles is not declining because of population explosion. Second thing, the purchasing capacity of people have increased. Even a vegetable vendor, flower vendor, fruits vendor is selling his commodities on a vehicle. Even he is not shouting, just he will keep the mic, that's all. Okay? If you go to any rural area, earlier 20 years ago or 25 years ago, there was very hardly 1 or 2 tractors in the villages. Now in front of every farmer's house, you can see 2 or 3 tractors. So what I mean to say is, even though there is shift in electric vehicles, in course of time, the consumption of diesel may not fall abruptly, but after 20 years, everything may change. Who knows? Who knows? That is the prediction made by the international agencies. Okay? Yes. However, revenues will fall significantly as a share of the gross domestic product and overall government budget, which would naturally impose fiscal challenges for both the central and state government in the next 2 decades. Why? Whenever our revenues decline, the states and central government will face problems in spending. They will face a lot of problems. Now take the example of many states. They are full of the fiscal deficit. Take the example of India itself. 8 lakh crores of money is spent only to pay the interest, not the principal, only to pay the interest on the debt. 8 lakh crores, nearly 3 or 4 states budget. Okay? Yes. On examining the revenue from fossil fuels, we found that more than a fifth of the center's revenues were from fossil fuels as of 2019. More than fifth means 20%, which included both tax, direct and indirect, and non-tax revenues, including royalties, dividends, etc., paid by public sector undertakings. What is the meaning of this? Center is levying directly tax, excise duty, okay? But you are having HPCL, IOCL, BPCL, which are involved in crude oil refining. They are getting the profits, okay? And even they are paying the corporate taxes. And it is also revenue for the government. And even the profit of HPCL, IOCL, BPCL will also be transferred to the government because they are PSU companies. Government will get the dividend from that companies. So in future, no question of crude oil usage, no question of dividend from these PSU oil marketing companies. They are called as the downstream companies. And what is upstream company as far as crude oil is concerned? What is upstream company? Name one upstream company as far as crude oil is concerned. ONGC, OAL, they are the upstream companies. Whereas by BPCL, IOCL, HPCL, they are downstream. Processing companies downstream. Upstream means exploring companies. Actually, in the UPSC mains, you are having the problems in upstream and problems in downstream, etc. Okay? Yes. Okay. Now, for the state government, total revenues from fossil fuels were lower at about 8% of total revenues. The combined revenue for both the center and states was 13% of the total revenue collected, which translates to 3.2% of India's GDP. So 3.2%, the value of these taxes is 3.2% of India's GDP. Okay? Yes. To understand the enormity of the revenue from fossil fuels, this is much higher than India's defense expenditure and comparable to the combined education, culture and sports expenditures of both the center and state. What they mean to say is this is a good amount of revenues to government. Now, fiscal transition. So, how will India cope with fiscal transition? The government may impose additional taxes on coal or something like a carbon tax. Why? They have to cope up with the excise duty, and also states have to cope up with the state VAT because they are losing the taxes on the sale of fossil fuels. Why? In course of time, their sale will be declined. There is no doubt in it. Similarly, if current events are any indication, when the government experiences revenue stress, it finds energy to be the easiest source of revenues. Nowadays, if state government wanted to increase their revenues, they will just increase the taxation on petrol because petrol is used by the people who are having more money. Because government think in that manner. So government will not think that even a vegetable vendor is also selling his vegetables on a TVS 50. There is no, subsidies on petrol, like white card 100 rupees, pink card 120. You are not having that. Only for fishermen, every month they will get a limited amount of petrol and diesel at a subsidized price. Fishermen in the coastal region to save their occupation or food security, etc. Okay? Yes. In our okay. So how will India cope with fiscal transition? The government may impose additional tax on coal or something like a carbon tax. Similarly, if current events are any indication, when the government experiences revenue stress, it finds energy to be the easiest source of revenues. In our analysis, we calculate revenue from fossil fuels for 2019 and use the same for projections as well. However, if the events post 2019 are any indication, it only reinforces our analysis. During the COVID period, government's reliance on fossil fuel for revenues, mainly petroleum, increased. So actually, at the time of COVID, what happened? At the time of COVID-19, the crude oil prices in the international market have slashed it like anything. On one night, it fell to negative for the first time. Negative value, negative value. In spite of that, any person in India got petrol free of cost? Any person got? No. Why? It became a excellent golden duck for the government for the revenues. Why? They have never decreased the petrol price. It was never less than 80 rupees. Even though the crude fell to $10, $15, and it for a long period it was nearly $30, $35 per barrel. Understand? So they harvested in that period, saying that earlier we lost the money when the crude was high. Now again crude is at a higher rate. Again they are losing the revenues. After UP elections, slowly, daily 1 rupee, daily 75 NP, they have increased the prices. Now it is almost all maybe 119 or 120. In spite of crude declining from 130 barrel to 102 or 103 in the recent days, now it is nearly 102 or 103, 102, not beyond the 130. Who knows, the crude may spike. Who knows, the crude may fall. Because on one day, the price of nickel increased by 50% and fell by 30% within one day. And the volatility is nearly 85%, 50 up, 35 down. Who knows? Everything is based on psychology. Fourth wave coming, psychological impact. Okay? Yes. Now, despite decreasing the international crude oil prices, tax on petrol and diesel in India were increased, leading to decoupling of international and domestic oil prices at the time of COVID-19. Even now also, the increase is not in line with the international crude prices. Why? They will increase slowly, such that consumer will not feel the burden. Okay? Can you study all the subject within a day? మీరు అసలే చదవరు. Okay? వాళ్ళు మీరు కాదు. Okay. ठीक है. According to latest data, I mean the revenue from petroleum was 2.7% of GDP in 1920, which increased to 3.4% of GDP in 2021. Why? The usage of vehicles has increased. The standard of living of people have increased. The number of vehicles sold in rural areas are far more than the urban areas. You cannot see a bicycle on the roads of Hyderabad. Rarely you can see. Earlier, everybody used to go to their working places on bicycles. Now, nowadays, nobody bicycle. Only they will have the diabetes and BP within the body. Nobody is interested in doing the physical work. Cycling is an excellent exercise. Okay? Yes. Okay. Such indirect measures can lead to higher revenues from fossil fuels, but only for a limited period. Why? In course of time, the usage of fossil fuel will decline. Why? Because of other sources of revenue, energies like electrical energy. There is no need of any fossil fuel. You will keep the battery for charging and go for a ride. Yes. Over time, the revenues from fossil fuel will steadily fall as India shifts to renewable energy sources, ramps down the use of fossil fuels, and as electric vehicles increase. On one side, government is encouraging EVs by giving subsidies. Lot of subsidies, waiving transportation tax, etc. According to our estimate, if current economic trends persist, revenues are estimated to fall from 3.2% in 2019 of GDP to 1.8% and 1% in 2030. Slowly, the revenues will decline. When you compare with it with the GDP, GDP will increase abnormally. The revenues will not increase in that phase. Numerically, they may increase, but not in line with GDP, unlike the earlier cases, because the usage of these fossil fuels will decline. Fiscal pressure on the central and states will make investing in energy infrastructure difficult. If they are not having the money, they cannot go for solar plants. What they will do? They have to search for other mode of revenues. They will levy new type of taxes. Earlier, our kings used to levy the maternity taxes. We earlier had abnormal taxes, and even in the period of Alauddin Khilji, the taxation, the tax burden on farmer was 50%. In the Raitwari system of English, it was also nearly 50%. In some cases, more than 50%. Okay? Yes. Fiscal pressure on the central and states will make investing in energy infrastructure difficult. On the top of that, a large part of the energy transition may need to be supported through direct or indirect subsidies by concession of excise duties on EVs. Just now I told you, electric vehicles are encouraged by giving various types of subsidies. On one hand, they are losing the revenues. On the other hand, they are spending the money to encourage the EVs. Now we can see on the roads, two-wheelers, n number of EVs. Again, the next problem is the competition. The existing the mechanism will not work for the EVs. What these engine makers will do. Now take the example of Greaves Cotton. It is a distributor of engines for diesel autos. Now no question of diesel autos. You will get the electric autos. The people who are involved in the sector, what they will do? They have to search for the other jobs. See, earlier, when you come to the two-wheelers, Hero Honda or Bajaj, now you can see EVs, Bisley, Bulb, different names because they are locally manufactured. You can see different electric vehicles. So what happens? The big system may collapse. Small system may be encouraged. Okay? Are you able to understand? ठीक है. Concessional GST on electric cars, concession given under green hydrogen policy, etc., like the small wind energy and hybrid system program. The subsidies will add to the center and state fiscal stakes, but without these subsidies, the energy transition itself may slow down. If government will not give subsidies, nobody will purchase the electric vehicle. But we are committed to minimize the usage of fossil fuels. So we have to encourage this. There is no doubt. You are committed to get a government job. You have to come to the classes. You cannot sleep in your hostel like many of our students are doing. Maybe now they will wake up because stomach will not stop. Stomach will ask that person, boy or girl. Stomach will ping them. Please wake, please wake. I am hungry. Okay. Yes. Again, declining revenue can have political economic ramification. Why? The government will minimize the populistic policies. No free rice, no free that one, no this one, because we are interested in populistic policies only. We are interested in personal benefits, not the community benefits. Nowadays, the voter behavior has changed in that manner. Of course, electoral behavior is your topic. Okay? The declining revenue can have political economic ramification as well. This is the last year of GST compensation given to state governments. You know, as some state governments are facing losses because implementation of GST, that compensation is given to these states by the central government. And this is the last year. So even state government will also lose abnormally. They will not get money from center, and they will not get money from the sale of fossil fuels. That is, which is levied on that. It is the state VAT. So state VAT will also decline. Again, the center's compensation will also decline. So automatically, state governments will face lot of hardship, and state governments are known for the implementation of the populistic policies. Of course, central government is also having, but very less in number. Whereas state governments, more and more number of policies. Okay? Yes. Okay. Furthermore, under the GST structure, states have limited autonomy to raise taxes, which may exacerbate the issue, means which may intensify the issue. That is the meaning of that sentence. Okay. Now, the center in the last few years have started collecting more revenues via cess, which is not shared with states, running the risk of straining the center-state relationship. Yes, cess, it is collected by the center only, but cess is not transmitted to the state government. Unlike the distribution of taxes, now it is 41% on the recommendations of the 15th Finance Commission. Cess is not distributed. Okay. Yes. So, and finally, the meaning of this is, now what the government will do? The government will levy abnormal taxes on your liquor, alcohol, tobacco goods, gutka, cigarettes to compensate these losses. And for you people, the cigarettes will become so costly. Chudandi, dekho, over a period of time, this buoyancy may compensate for the foreign fossil fuel revenues. Also, it is crucial for the government to continue with the formalization drive to increase the tax base. See, if you don't know the fundamentals and basics, you will not understand the articles in the paper. If we say that we start from fundamentals, no, we know everything. Many people, students will come, we have already studied NCERTs. Okay? Okay. Continue with the, what is formalization? Drive in increasing the tax base. What is the meaning of this sentence? See, 90% of India's business economy is in the informal sector. What is informal sector? Working away from the government. See, a milk vendor in a village, what he will do? He will sell the milk to somebody and purchase something. That is not reflected in the GDP. No question of any taxation. So, informal sector will not contribute much taxes. Nobody will pay the income tax. So, now you have to increase the tax base by making many sectors or taking many sectors into the formal sector. We have to see that we have to encourage the people to take the GST or other licenses and transfer everything through the banks and pay the taxes. And even you have to increase the tax base. Now what is happening? Only few are paying the taxes. Again, you cannot levy more taxes on them. They will die. What you have to do? You have to increase the tax base. More people should be brought under the taxation net. So it will take a lot of time. It is not so easy task in India. So this is, and see, however, these are long-term process. Suddenly you cannot, formalize every sector, and you cannot ask a milkman to pay tax GST on milk, GST on vegetables. There is no GST on vegetables. On perishable goods, there is no GST. You cannot levy GST on vegetables, and that person will be called as Tughlaq. Of course, Tughlaq is a great king, but unluckily he got a bad name. Sometimes happens. Okay? Yes. In the short run, India would need to increase revenues from some other source, like increasing tax on demerit goods like alcohol. You have to remember, these are demerit goods. Why? You will not get any positive thing by consuming tobacco, by consuming alcohol. Will you get anything positive, Divya? No idea. Okay. Tobacco, etc. To compensate for the reduction in energy sourced from fossil fuels. So, very nice article published in the business line. Okay? Yes. Okay. So, next is a topic related to environment ecology. You know, methane. It is one of the greenhouse gas, and its bad impact is more than the CO2. Bad impact is more than the CO2. Here we will study what are the sources of methane in India, like paddy fields, even cattle, and usage of fossil fuels, leakages. Okay, and how to minimize that. Okay, and it is our duty to minimize the usage of methane because it is more harmful to the environment than the carbon dioxide. Okay, so now it is a chemical compound containing one carbon and four hydrogen atoms. Its chemical formula is CH4. So you should know that. See, you people have studied everything in the intermediate or +2 level, but today everything is new for you because of the existing system. If I study my intermediate books first year and second year for 15 days, I can teach both your students all three subjects, math, physics, and chemistry. If I once take coaching for IIT, next batch I can teach even for the IIT also, because IIT coaching is different from the routine academic coaching. Okay? Yes. Only it is a colorless, odorless, and flammable gas. What is the meaning of flammable gas? Yes. Okay? Inflammable or flammable. It is the simplest hydrocarbon and main constituent of the natural gas. Last class also, in our routine classes, we have discussed methane is the major ingredient in the natural gas. Yes, it is present in smaller quantities in Earth's atmosphere, but human activities have raised its concentration in the last few decades. The anthropogenic activities have increased the percentage of methane in the atmosphere. Though naturally it is available, but its share has increased. Even CO2 is also naturally occurring, but its share has increased. Why? Because of burning of the fossil fuels, because of human activities, because of rising standards of human beings. Earlier they used to take the public transport. Now car is a symbol of prestige. Okay. Yes. Okay. It is a powerful greenhouse gas. Why powerful? It is having more bad impact than the CO2. Methane is a rapidly accelerating part of the climate problem. It is the primary component of natural gas, and it warms the planet more than 80 times as quickly as a comparable volume of atmospheric CO2. Very important point. 80 times, not 2 times or 3 times. 80 times. Over a comparable amount of time. Why is methane more harmful? Methane is an invisible gas that can significantly exacerbate the climate crisis. It is a hydrocarbon that is a major constituent of natural gas used as fuel to run stoves, our cooking stoves, heat homes in foreign countries, not in India only. If such kind of things exist in India, means really you can have a lot of work for our fire engines, because they will on everything and sit in front of phone. By that time, milk will get boiled, everything will get boiled. Yes, and also to power industries. Methane can be, see, methane gas is used to run the internal combustion engines, in turn to generate the power. I told you, even you can use it to draw the water from the well by running the diesel gensets. Okay, methane can be thought of as a thicker blanket than carbon dioxide, one that is capable of warming the planet to a greater extent in a shorter period. See, once if you just listen the class, within 24 hours, once again you have to run the video, that is sufficient. But you people will never see the videos. In spite of our app, 2 cycles of subject is available in that. No, but of course, many people are watching. Many employees who have joined in our through our app, they are watching in a fair manner. If the video is not posted, they will call immediately, sir, what happened to today's class video? And even we will have the data, how many people are watching. But you people will never watch them. I cover everything, but you will never recover, like patient in the ICU. Okay, no issue. It has an immediate effect on warming the planet. However, unlike carbon dioxide, which remains in the atmosphere for hundreds of years, methane exerts its warming effects for roughly a decade, that is 10 years. Methane pollution, which is a primary component of ground level ozone and emitted alongside toxic chemicals such as benzene, has been linked to heart disease, birth defects, asthma, and other adverse health impacts. See, nowadays in urban areas, see, take the example of Delhi. Even the Chief Minister of Delhi is also facing the problem of asthma. And he got treated at Jain Hospital in Bangalore. He stayed there for maybe 25 days or 1 month. Even in Hyderabad also, when you will go outside and if it is highly, traffic jam, then you will start suffocating. And in course of time, all diseases will come. Here tanning, here tanning, here tanning, here tanning, here tanning, here tanning. Andarki. Sabku. For all. Yes. So now, source of methane, that is important for mains or even in the prelims also. Source of methane. Now, biological sources. There are biological sources of methane. It is made from some organic compounds by methane generating microbes known as the methanogens. Of course, it is a topic of biology, and methogens are found in various natural environments where little or no oxygen is present. Methane will be formed in the absence of oxygen. It is the reason why in the paddy fields methane will develop, because for first 45 days the soil will not have the oxygen supply because it will be inundated in the water. You know, paddy fields, we have discussed in our routine classes, the field will be flooded for first 45 days. Okay? And even cattle also, even the respiration of cattle, even blouting of cattle will also release the methane. Practical terms with common sense, you can write them in. Try to use your sense if it is available. Okay. Then, such environments include wetlands. Wetlands, what is wetlands? By the side of the rivers. The top layer will be highly saturated. The highly saturated layer will not allow the oxygen to reach the subsurface. Automatically, methane will be developed. Such environments include wetlands, landfills that are not well vented, and submerged paddy fields. So, landfills means where we will dump the unwanted material. See, take the example of garbage yards, dumping yards. They are also good source of methane. Why? The bottom layer will not receive the oxygen, so methane will be developed. Agriculture. Just now I told about the paddy field. Agriculture is the predominant source of global methane. Methane emissions, livestock emissions from manure and gastroenteric releases account for roughly 32% of human caused methane, 32% from the cattle. And without cattle, can we live? Especially a country like India, we cannot live because all our farmers cannot go for mechanization. And even cattle is an important economic value for us. And India is one of the largest exporter of taro in the world. That is buffalo fat. Okay? Yes. Cows also belch out methane. Paddy rice cultivation. Just now I told you why. Because for 45 days it will be inundated in the water, in which flooded fields prevent oxygen from penetrating the soil, creating ideal conditions for methane emitting bacteria. Accounts for another 8% of human-linked emissions. Emissions from fuel and industries. Fugitive emissions of methane from gas, coal, and oil sites are contributing to the climate crisis. But the extent of leakage of this potent greenhouse gas has been difficult to determine. We are unable to access this, but it is also a major share. Wherever you are using the fossil fuels, by some or other form, the methane will be generated. Okay. See, the usage of fossil fuel has become an essential for us. Even a school child is going to school on the vehicle. College students, definitely. And BTech students, no other way. Okay. Methane leakage occurs at every stage of the supply chain, from extraction and transportation to use in homes and industries. Much of the methane being released is due to ultra emitters which spew out copious amounts of the gas. What has been done to curb methane emissions? COP26 pledges. What is the full form of COP? COP. Full form of COP. Let online students start. If not, you will sleep. Just you will on the phone and sleep. Conference of Parties. Conference of Parties. Pledges. In Glasgow, over 100 countries signed an agreement to cut methane emissions by 30% by 2030. Whether India is a signatory for that? India. Methane ko. Is India a signatory for methane? For methane reduction, India is not a signatory. Okay? Yes. India is not a signatory for methane. Very important. Even Russia, China, other countries also not signatory. Because how we can minimize ours is the agricultural economy. How suddenly we can reduce the number of cattle? Not possible. Now, unluckily, the number of cattle is decreasing because of cow slaughter or lack of fodder, and even floods, droughts. Okay? Yes. Okay. 100 countries signed an agreement to cut methane emissions by 30% by 2030, as methane might be easier to deal with than carbon dioxide, which is more deeply embedded in the global economy. Global Methane Pledge. It is a global arrangement reached by more than 100 countries from all over the world to cut down global methane emissions by at least 30% by 2030 compared to 2020 levels. It was signed by 103 countries on the sidelines of the COP26 summit held in Glasgow. The idea was first proposed by the USA and EU in September 2021. The signatories represent 70% of the global economy, including 6 of the world's top 10 methane polluters. The major short-term goal of the pledge is to cut down emissions from the fossil fuel industry, which can be achieved at little or no cost. Scientists believe that it could help the world avoid 0.3 degrees centigrade of warming by 2040. 0.3 degrees centigrade. If there is 1 degree centigrade increase in temperature, hundreds of living organisms will die. They will become extinct. The pledge also aims to catalyze global action and strengthen support for existing international methane emission reduction initiatives to advance technical and policy work to help participant countries in their domestic actions. India has not signed the global methane pledge despite being one of the top 10 emitters of methane, because we cannot change our machines so easily. We cannot put an into practice of agriculture, which we are following from centuries. We cannot reduce the number of cattle, and even we cannot go for better fodder, which may involve in less release of methane. We cannot stop the cultivation of paddy because it is our staple food. Okay, India has not signed the global methane pledge despite being one of the top 10 emitters of methane, since India is an agro-based economy and agriculture is one of the major anthropogenic sources of methane emission. Anthropogenic means human cause. India had concerns over the impact on trade on the country's vast farm sector and the role of livestock in the rural economy. There is no agriculture without cattle. There is no human beings in rural economy without cattle and agriculture. And many people will survive only on the cattle, by rearing the goat, by rearing the sheep, etc. Major methane emitters like Russia, China, and Iran have not signed the deal either. The pledge is just a joint agreement made by countries voluntarily, and it depends on the individual efforts of all the countries how successful it becomes in the long run. One thing, it is clear that India is not a signatory. Not possible to reduce within short period. In long run, anything may happen. Methane SAT. Controlling methane emissions will require further scrutiny of its sources. To this end, satellites that will track methane leakage, such as methane SAT, SAT means satellite, have been planned to launch. Methane SAT is a planned American, New Zealand. You have to remember which countries are involved in that. Methane SAT is a planned American, New Zealand space mission scheduled for launch later in 2022. It will be an Earth observation satellite that will monitor and study global methane emissions in order to combat climate change. UN initiatives. The UN Food System Summit in September 2021 was also aimed at helping make farming and food production more environmentally friendly. Farming and food production. You cannot stop farming. You cannot stop food production. Only you can make it eco-friendly. If you stop food production, mankind will not survive. If you stop fodder, cattle will not survive. And if cattle will not survive, we will not survive. We have two missed calls. Okay. So, see, actually, all our traditional practices are, eco-friendly. Now, because of abnormal standard of living, we are welcoming the disease and polluting the atmosphere, even polluting our brains also. If somebody is going in the Fortuner, your face will become dull. Why? You are not having the Fortuner. Why will not see a person who is walking on the road with barefoot? At least you are having chappals to wear. That should be your thinking. Then you will live a happy life like me. Of course, you will never allow me to live happily. Okay? Yes, my dear. UN Food System Summit in September 2021 was also aimed at helping make farming. Yes, it is over. The UN's Coronavia Joint Work on Agriculture initiative is supporting the transformation of agriculture and food systems, focusing on how to maintain productivity amid a changing climate. Because you cannot reduce the productivity. Population is not decreasing, it is increasing. And even our consumption has increased. Because why? Our purchasing capacity has increased. Okay? 30 years ago or 35 years ago, Hyderabad was not having hotels which used to charge 20 or 30 rupees for a meal. Now even you are having hotels which will charge 600 rupees per meal. Barbecue Nation, 1550. Many things, and of course I don't know because I will not go for such kind of hotels. Very rarely I will go, and it is routine. I mean, it is routine work for you people. Yes, India's initiative. This is very important. What world is doing is secondary for us. India's initiative is important for our examination point of view. India's initiative. Central Salt and Marine Chemical Research Institute, in collaboration with the country's three leading institutes, developed a seaweed-based animal feed. Seaweed-based animal feed. Earlier, for UPSC main students, when I was dealing with the food processing industry and cattle, I told about a fern which can be grown on paddy fields, on ponds, on the surface of the ponds also. What is that fern called? I told you for the UPSC main student. Anybody? Madam Bhagwati ji? Of course, less students are. Yes, excellent, and Bhagwati. Azola fern. Azola. Excellent, excellent. Okay. Animal feed additive formulation that aims to reduce methane emissions from cattle and also boost immunity of cattle and poultry. So even the type of feed will also minimize the methane emission from the cattle. That point you have to keep in mind. Okay. What is significance of curbing emissions? Human caused methane emissions could be reduced by as much as 45% within the decade. Yes, we can do. This would avert nearly 0.3 degrees centigrade of global warming by 2045, helping to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees centigrade and putting the planet on track to achieve the Paris Agreement targets. Every year, the subsequent reduction in ground level ozone would also prevent 260,000 premature deaths. Yes, just now we have discussed, because of methane you will get the heart attack. See, even nowadays 30 years people are dying because of heart attack. Nobody's life is guaranteed. What you have to do is you have to see that your dependents will not face any problem in the absence of you. That is very important. That's all. You have to get a full insurance. That's all. Of course, you cannot stop anything. Okay? Yes. 7,75,000 asthma-related hospital visits. That is common. Now, asthma has become common in the metropolitan cities. Again, migraine. Why you are abstaining from classes? Migraine. Somebody, other grain. For me, no grain. Even if any faculty absents, it is my duty. Yes. Okay. 73 billion hours of lost labor from extreme heat and 25 million tons of crop losses. Yes, extreme heat, nobody will sit, nobody will work. If I will not on the air conditioners, nobody will come to the class saying that no, it is too hot in the class. We will come only online by sleeping on your sofa or maybe on bed also. Some people, they will just on the phone and they will be in very active in other phone also. That is common thing. What measures can be taken further to reduce methane emissions? In the energy sector, methane emissions occur along the entire oil and gas supply chain. So you have to see that leakage will not occur in that. Now, existing cost-effective solutions can help reduce emissions, including initiating leak detection and repair programs. In agriculture, that is paddy. So that flooding type of paddy cultivation should be minimized. Yes, we can do that. Without flooding also, you can cultivate the paddy. There is no need of flooding the fields. In agriculture, the farmers can provide animals with more nutritious food so that they are larger, healthier and more productive. So less number of cattle will give the same amount of milk. They are talking about the number. Less number, less methane, but same production. Suppose there are two lean cattle, 5 kg, 5 kg. A healthy cattle like me will be 10 kg. So I will give same amount of meat. That is the inner idea of this sentence. Hope you understood very well. Yes. The farmers can provide animals with more nutritious feed so that they are larger, healthier and more productive, effectively producing more with less. Indian Council of Agriculture Research has developed an anti-methanogenic feed supplement, Haridara. Even you can also remember such thing to make your main answer more excellent. Haridara, which can cut down cattle methane emissions by 17 to 20% and can also result in higher milk production. So less number of cattle, more productivity. When it comes to staple crops like paddy, rice, experts recommend alternative wetting and drying approaches. Just now I told you there is no need of flooding. Wetting, drying, wetting, drying. You will get the almost all same yielded. Rather than allowing the continuous flooding of fields, paddies could be irrigated and drained 2 to 3 times throughout the growing season, limiting methane production. See, practically you can write this answer. What is there to mug up leaving the Haridara, a feed supplied by the central government? But most of you will sit in class only with your body, not with your mind. That is the problem. Okay. The process would also require 1/3 less water, making it more economical. Yes. Practice of paddy cultivation without flooding of fields is more economical. Yes, it will come in future. When there is no availability of water, what you will do? You will do that only. In the waste sector accounts for around 20% of global human caused methane emissions. The cost effective mitigation solutions with the greatest potential related to separating organics and recycling also have the potential of creating new jobs. Means solid waste management. One side, methane emissions will be minimized, and the other side, employment opportunity will also be created. Yes. Upstream avoidance of food loss and waste is also key. Wastage, because wastage will create the methane in course of time. Additionally, capturing landfill gas, we have discussed in the earlier classes, in our routine classes, coal bed methane, how you are tapping the coal bed methane. In the same way, you can tap this gas from the landfills or dumping yards. Yes, technology will develop in course of time. Necessity is the mother of invention. Like our online class, COVID-19, online class. Now COVID-19 is over. Now we will not come to class, only online. 90% of our admissions with regard to state service are through online. 90%. You are only 10%. Additionally, capturing landfill gas and generating energy will reduce methane emissions. Role of government. The government of India should envision a food system transition policy to help its people grow and consume food differently. So this is about the methane. Okay. Thank you. Thank you a lot for cooperating with me. Meet for this class on next Saturday at 7:15. Thank you. Thank you very much.